If you're trying to decide whether a dual-zone wine cooler like the Zephyr PRW24C02C belongs in your home, you probably have three questions running through your mind. Who will actually get value from it? Who can safely walk away? And does the price make sense for an everyday buyer who just wants a place to keep a few bottles at the right temperature? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those questions are the exact ones I asked myself before I dug into the specs, read the handful of reviews that exist, and imagined how this unit would fit into a real kitchen or bar setup. First off, the Zephyr is positioned as a high-end solution that can be installed either built-in under a countertop or set up as a freestanding piece. That flexibility is one of its biggest selling points, but it also introduces a hidden consideration. You need enough clearance behind the unit for proper ventilation, and the surrounding cabinetry has to accommodate a 24-inch width without looking squeezed. If you have a dedicated wine wall or a spare section of a pantry, the installation will feel natural. If you're trying to squeeze it into a cramped apartment kitchen, you might end up fighting the unit for airflow, which can lead to temperature swings and louder fan noise. Now, who should actually buy this cooler? The sweet spot is the serious hobbyist who wants to store both reds and whites at their optimal temps without buying two separate appliances. The dual zone feature lets you set one side to, say, 55F for Pinot Noir and the other to 45F for Champagne. And the internal vibration dampening system helps protect delicate bottles from the everyday shudder of a refrigerator compressor. If you have a collection that hovers around 30 to 40 bottles, the 45 bottle capacity means you won't be constantly rearranging shelves, and the stainless steel finish blends nicely with modern kitchen aesthetics. For people who host tastings or enjoy rotating wines based on season, that flexibility translates directly into a better experience. Conversely, if you're the type who buys a bottle on a Friday night and drinks it the next day, the dual-zone capability is probably overkill. A single-zone cooler, or even a good wine fridge with a single temperature setting would meet your needs at a lower price point. Likewise, collectors who already own more than 45 bottles will quickly feel cramped. You'll spend as much time curating space as you do enjoying the wine. And if you're budgeting for a first-time cooler, the Zephyr sits in a higher price bracket than many entry-level models. So the return on investment hinges on how much you value the vibration reduction and the option to hide it behind cabinets. In day-to-day use, the temperature controls are straightforward. A digital display on the front lets you set each zone independently, and the unit holds that setting consistently, even when the ambient room temperature swings from summer heat to winter chill. I've seen users report that the interior stays quiet enough that you can have a conversation across the countertop without the fan becoming a distraction. That quiet operation is partly thanks to the vibration dampening system, which also reduces the risk of wine sediment being disturbed, a subtle benefit that matters when you're storing older, more fragile bottles. Energy consumption is another practical angle. Dual-zone units naturally use more power than a single-zone counterpart because they're running two thermostats and two sets of cooling coils. However, the Zephyr's compressor is designed for efficiency, and most owners see a modest impact on their electric bill, especially if the cooler is placed in a climate-controlled part of the house rather than a hot garage. If you're environmentally conscious, you can mitigate the draw by setting the zones just a few degrees above the absolute minimum you need. The wine won't suffer, and the unit won't have to work as hard. One trade-off that isn't obvious from the marketing copy is the interior layout. The shelves are adjustable, which is good, but the spacing is fixed in a way that makes it a little awkward to store very tall bottles, like Magnum formats. You can get around that by removing a shelf, but then you lose the ability to stagger smaller bottles on that level. For most standard 750 milliliters bottles, the configuration is fine, but anyone with a mix of large formats should double-check the dimensions before committing. Another practical concern is the noise level of the rear vent fan when the unit is cycling. In a quiet dining area, the faint hum can become noticeable if the cooler is right against a wall with no acoustic insulation. The good news is the fan isn't a constant roar. It kicks in only when the temperature drops, so most of the day you'll barely hear it. If you plan to place the cooler directly next to a home theater or a study where silence is golden, you might want to allow a foot or two of separation. The stainless steel exterior does more than look sleek. It's easy to wipe down, and because the surface isn't porous, spills from a tipped bottle don't seep into crevices. That practicality can save you a